I'm gonna get crucified for making this point, but it is what it is, my opinion, okay? As someone who has been living in Germany for 5 years, I went to the US and I made some interesting observation. And of course, I have something to say about it and I want to share it with you. Are you ready? Grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine or whatever it is that you like drinking, and let's get into this video. Hello, my friend. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Wale O, a former HR girl turned tech girl. I've lived in multiple countries across Southeast Asia, Africa, and Europe. I make videos about working abroad, building fulfilling careers, and personal development. And from time to time, I also make videos about comparing different countries and cities where I've lived or where I've been to or where I've visited, and I just love doing that, and that's why we are here. So before going into this video, I want to give a bit of a disclaimer. So everything I say, it's my opinion, okay? You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to. It's okay. We can all agree to disagree. It's my personal opinion, my personal experience, and your opinion might be different. Feel free to leave your opinion in the comment section if you have a different opinion, but let's all understand in this day and age that it's okay for people to have different opinions, okay? Now that the disclaimer is out of the way, let's get into this video. So first of all, the US is huge and massive. Like, oh my God, they have how many time zones? Like 5 or 6 time zones, if I get it correctly. So in proportion, in diversity, in population size, in everything, Germany is definitely incomparable to the US. They're just like two different countries, obviously, Germany and the US, but they're so different in so many different ways. And that's one of the things we want to talk about in this video. And while I was in the US, I spent most of my time in the like south of the US, the deep south. So I was in Texas, I was in Louisiana, I was in Alabama, I was in Florida, I was in Mississippi. So everything I'm talking about was my observations being in the south. I've never been more like north or west or east. No, I've never been. So it's more about the south and Florida. I was in Florida as well. I even made some vlogs about my trip to the US. So if you've not seen that vlog, go and watch the videos. But anyway, I just wanted to give this context of where my observation is coming from. Again, take it with a pinch of salt. You can agree, you can disagree. That's okay. We agree to disagree. Another beautiful observation I made, the US versus Germany, is how the culture is so different. I think this is so obvious for anyone who has spent time in the two countries. The culture is so different in the sense that people are more chatty and friendly in the US. Now, with this said, people always say like, oh, the friendliness is fake. That's not what we're talking about. You don't have to be besties, okay? Like, nobody's looking for their next bestie or anything. The point is, it's much easier to strike up conversation with strangers in the US, and I think that's such a beautiful thing. It's something that is so missing in Germany. Like, after I spent a long time in Germany, I always feel like whenever I go out of Germany again, I feel like I'm also beginning to get into that mindset of when people talk to me, I'm like, oh my God, why are they talking to me? Which I was not like that before, but I'm getting the German influence, I guess. And I have to remind myself like, no, that's not the kind of person I want to be. So the point is, the culture is just very different. People are just more chatty. If you go to a store to buy something, the person is telling you how their day went or some random story that they did. And like, I think I just enjoy the culture of small talk, like just having the conversation with a stranger. You might never see the person again, and that's okay. It's honestly, I miss this thing so much. I did not realize how much I miss it until I was in the US. Honestly, like, it was just like, so people are just more like chatty, like just, oh, how are you, how was your day, and the compliments. Oh, maybe this is the vain part of me talking, but I'm the kind of person, if I see something I like on someone or a nice looking person, I will say it. I'll be like, oh, you look very lovely today. All the people that know me know that I give compliments, and not just fake compliments. If I really see something I like, I say it. So being in an environment where people also are like that, we're like, oh my God, that's such a gorgeous dress, and the person just passes and I'm like, oh, thank you, and that's it. Nobody's expecting anything from you. Nobody's just like regular compliments, and you don't know what someone is going through in a day where you might just give a compliment and it will just brighten the person's day. I really, really miss that in Germany, because in Germany, first of all, talking to strangers is not a thing. Like, if you talk to people without any context, like, you're like, why are you talking to me? or like the person is so flustered like a stranger is talking to them. It's just not a thing in Germany, and that's why it's doubly difficult in Germany to meet new people and make friends, because the culture is not just that open to making small talk or to talking to strangers or to just having like chatty conversations with no meaning. They're like a bit more serious in Germany. And if I had to choose, honestly, I love the small talk and chatty culture. Like, I mean, how else are you going to meet people? Or like even not meet people, but just be a like normal social person and not a weirdo. I feel like I'm gonna get crucified for making this point, but it is what it is, my opinion, okay? So in general, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like the culture is more friendly and open in the US than in Germany. I'm sure German people will come and give me like a long explanation in the comment section about why this is the case. Do that. I love to read the reasoning and the history behind it. But yeah, I know that the US is more like a immigrant country. It's a country that was built on immigration, blah, blah, blah. Although they want to see it in a different way nowadays, but this is not a political channel. And I'm not here to give my political opinion. So let's close this chapter once and for all. Another thing I noticed in the US compared to Germany is how the US is really the home of capitalism. What do I mean by this? The advertising in the US is like on another level. Really. Oh my God, I've never seen this level of advertising in my life before. In Germany, of course, there's advertising. If you watch TV, like yeah, there's advertising, but in my opinion, like coming from a different context, it was like advertising on steroids. Like I would even see adverts for medicine, pharmaceutical medicine, and not just like, oh, I have a headache kind of medicine. They would be giving advertising for drugs that treat like cancer, or something that treats like personality disorder. What's the bipolar, or something like serious illnesses, and I'm just like shocked, like, oh my God, these medications you cannot get over the counter. You need a prescription for it. So why are they advertising for this medication? And also in the adverts they will say things like, oh, you should ask your doctor for it. I'm like, I didn't even know you can even go to the hospital and tell your doctor, this is the medication I want, like, because I saw it on TV. Honestly, it was just jarring for me to see these kinds of adverts. And of course, it's required by law for them to disclose all the side effects that come with the medication. And the adverts, they will like talk about side effects like heart seizure, brain seizure, and like, oh my God. I really I really found these adverts very interesting. Like in 1 hour of watching like random TV, I would see like maybe like 20 or 25 or 30 adverts, like serious adverts, and it was just jarring for me. Again, of course, there's advertising in Germany, but I just felt like it was a bit more intense in the US, which is okay, I guess. One of the first things I noticed, because I landed in Texas, one of the first things I noticed was how public transportation is pretty much non-existent. You have to understand that I'm coming from the context of Berlin. I live in Berlin, Germany. And in Berlin, like public transportation is so good. Like the connection, you have the buses, you have the trams, you have the U-Bahn, the S-Bahn. The U-Bahn is the underground, the S-Bahn is the train. You have so good, the buses like everywhere. There's such good connection. And it came as a kind of interesting surprise for me that such a big city in the US, because the US is always looked at in Germany as like, oh wow, this epitome of development, big brother kind of situation. And so when I got there and I was like, there's no public transportation, there's no, like, granted, I landed in Houston, in the city center, like there's like one tram or so. Yeah, they call it a train, but it's not a train, it's a tram. There was one, and I don't think it goes very far. And they were like just huge cars. That's another thing that surprised me, the size of their cars. Like, what is going on? Are these like cars or like LKVs, mini LKVs? LKV is like a, what is LKV? Like a, no, it's not a truck, it's a trailer. Yeah, an LKV is a trailer. And I was like, are these cars, or they are like mini LKWs, because they're so huge. It was such an interesting surprise for me to see like cars like that, huge, massive cars. And the lack of public transportation was also jarring for me. Of course, in smaller towns in Germany, like middle of nowhere towns, they probably don't have as good public transportation as in Berlin. But for a big city, I was expecting, not expecting because I read about it, but I was just surprised at how little public transportation connection existed in a big city like Houston. It was just non-existent. So you needed a car, you had to take a taxi from the airport, and even like to move around, either you rent a car or you take taxis everywhere you want to go. And the distances are huge. Oh my God. Again, I'm coming from Berlin where, yeah, in comparison, the distances in Berlin are laughable right now that I think about it, because in Berlin, when somebody said like Berlin is really big by German standards, like it's the most populated city in Germany, and like the neighborhoods in Berlin are quite spread out. So when someone says that oh, somewhere is far, it's like 30 minutes, and like, oh my God, or like 40 minutes, like, oh my God, it's so far. In the US, when they say, oh, something is just around the corner, like in the South where I was, if they say something is around the corner, then it's like, you're like, okay, how long is the drive? And they're like, oh, it's just 1.5 hours or 1 hour. And I'm like, wait, what? Then I'm traveling. Like, for me, that's like travel. I'm not, I'm traveling to another city. What are you talking about? So the distances are huge. The public transportation is like the bare minimum, and the cars are big, but they also have like huge roads as well. So I mean, their infrastructure caters to cars. Another thing, no walking. No, forget it. No walking. Like the infrastructure for walking is just so not existent, because again the distances are huge. Like, who is going to be walking from one place to another? If it's going to take you 1.5 hours to drive there, how long is it going to take you to walk there? So like, I'm used to a city in Berlin where I can just walk. Like, I love walking. Like, I'm that maniac who walks for like 2 hours. Yes, I like, I'm guilty. I've walked for 2 hours before. So anyway, that's one of the observations I made. One of the things I also observed, Germany versus the US, when I was in the US, is that the houses, again, I was in the South. Remember, I told you in the beginning of the video, I was in the South. The houses are huge. In Houston specifically, I went around, driving around just so that I can see these ginormous houses. Oh my God. Like, I will leave like a B-roll or something on the screen. The houses are big, and I'm like, oh, I can see myself living here, because your girl likes space and your girl is cramped in Germany. My style is cramped here. I know somebody will come in the comment section like, if you don't like it, leave. I will not leave. I will stay. Okay? I will stay until I don't want to stay anymore. I don't know why I'm giving attitude in this video, but I just find like these like opinions are just funny for me. I take these things with a sense of humor. It's not that serious. And I know some people don't have humor, but that's your problem, not mine. Me, I like to laugh. Anyway, so the houses are huge. Like, of course there are smaller, the normal apartments and stuff, but in comparison to Germany, I just felt like they have more space. Of course, it's a huge country. They have more space to build bigger things, and the houses are just huge. And one thing I observed about the non-mansion accommodation, like they have lots of, in the South, wooden houses. Like, they build their houses with lots of wood. And for me, I'm just more used to brick buildings. And I'm wondering if somebody knows the reason why they use more like wood and prefabricated buildings material to build houses in the US. Please leave it in the comment section. I'm really curious, because I don't know why. I just found it very interesting that most of the buildings are like wooden structures. And in Germany, I think most of the houses, or the well, we have more apartment buildings in Berlin because there's no space. We all have to live on one on top of each other. They are more like brick buildings. So if you know the reason for this, please, I'm very curious, leave it in the comment section. Another thing I noticed in the US is also like this, how do I put this now? The entrepreneurial spirit is very, very thriving and alive in the US. Like, there's this, it depends on how you look at it. Like, you can look at it as hustle culture, or you can look at it as people just wanting to like live the American dream or like have an idea and do something. I mean, that's why it's the home to many of the innovations that we have nowadays, or many of the big companies that we have nowadays. But the entrepreneurial spirit, if you speak to people, people are doing like businesses, they have like a job and they have a side business or two side businesses. Or for people, I mean, it's a country where like it's not a cheap country, and there is inequality in the country, of course, like everywhere else. Inequality has different faces or different looks in different countries. I've been to so many countries around the world, and I see that inequality is just a thing, as a fabric of society that you cannot get rid of, and it just looks different in different countries. So in Germany there's inequality as well, in the US there's inequality as well. It just looks different depending on where you go. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that the entrepreneurial spirit, I'm not talking about people who have to do four jobs just to survive. I'm talking about people who have normal jobs, or like they have regular jobs and they get paid well, but they also have a side hustle and they have a dream that the side hustle will become big one time, and then they will be able to leave their job and pursue. Or people are just more like can do spirit, people are just like go getters. That's the energy I got, or from the people I surrounded myself with anyway. That's the energy I got, and that was such a beautiful thing to experience. Meanwhile, in Germany, I feel like entrepreneurship is not that promoted, because there are like 1 trillion rules that you have to follow to get things done. And if it's a language that's not your first language, you're just trying your best, it's like ugh, I cannot deal with all this bureaucracy and stuff. So I feel like in the US it's much easier to, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, to get things started. There is much more of that culture, like start your own business, get things done, register a company, do this. Like things are much more easier to do, and you have less hoops to jump through than Germany, for example. I think if you're mentioning entrepreneurial countries, Germany will not be one of them. This is my opinion. Everybody, and it's not a bad thing. It's just an observation that they are very different on this entrepreneurial perspective. Another thing that I found very interesting about the US versus Germany is, in the US, they have so many churches in the South. And what I mean churches is not the churches that you know in Germany. Like in Germany, they have churches like these ancient churches for the architecture and stuff. There are not so many people going there, and it's more like a historical piece to look at architecture, historical architecture, than a place of worship, like, or a religious situation. But I felt like in the South, when I was driving through, because I drove from Texas to, I drove from Houston to New Orleans, and like continued going down, I saw so many churches. And it's more like all these, what do they call this? Is it, I don't know, is it Pentecostal church, or yeah, the one that is not Catholic and the one that is not Orthodox, and the one that is not, I don't know, the Christian, they have different branches. But you know, the more the Pentecostal or whatever, like whatever they call the new age churches nowadays, they have so many. Or they have also Baptist. I don't know anything about religion, because I feel like I'm butchering this point, and I'm not getting my point across as I want to. But these churches, there are many, and they are huge, like huge, with lots of people going. So I wouldn't have in my mind considered the US as a religious country, in the context of I'm originally Nigerian, and Nigerians are religious. Like religion in my country is still a thing that people like fight over. Like I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but we have both religions in Nigeria. So we have Christian and Islam. They're the two biggest religions in Nigeria. I would not have considered the US a super religious country before I went there. I know it's a secular country, there are people that are religious, but the extent to which I saw these churches, like mega churches, like Nigerian standard churches on steroids, that's what I saw. And things like that are not just common in Germany. Like those kind of huge, massive churches are not common in Germany. So it was an interesting observation for me to see this stark difference. Another thing that I want to talk about is the level of homelessness I saw in the US. Oh my God. There's homelessness in Germany, right? Everywhere. Again, there's inequality in every society. It looks different in every society, it has a different face in every society. Is more, the contrast is more stark in some countries compared to other countries. But I used to see a lot about homelessness on TV, documentaries on YouTube in the US. But when I got there, it was really like jarring to see the level of homelessness that I saw in the big cities. And it was just like, wow, there's homelessness in Germany as well. But the thing in Germany, there is a social system that caters to people in need in Germany, which is quite good and robust. But still, some people end up on the streets. I'm not equipped enough to talk about why they end up on the streets or not. There's homeless people, especially in Berlin. There are many homeless people. If you go to cities like Munich, actually, I don't see. Whenever I go to Munich, I don't see that many homeless people. What do they what do they do with the homeless people in Munich? That's interesting. I don't know. But in Berlin, there's higher and increasing every year. There's an increasing level of homelessness. But I don't know, in the US, I just observed that it was much more on a higher level than I had ever experienced or seen before in any country that I had ever been to or any country that I had ever lived in. Okay, with that, I've come to the end of this video. I hope you took this video with a pinch of salt. It's just my opinion, and call it edutainment. So take it with a pinch of salt and take it with a sense of humor. These are just my opinions on what I observed going to the US and comparing it to Germany, where I've lived for 5 years now. Oh my God, how time flies. If you watched this video up to this point, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up or a like, because it really helps me out a lot. Today is a public holiday and your girl is filming a video instead of going outside to take a walk and enjoy the sun. I know nobody's asking me to do it. I love doing it. So please, it's free. Just like this video. It helps the algorithm, or it helps YouTube to suggest this video to more people that will enjoy this content. Again, if you watched this video up till this point, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.